what does it actually mean to stay human, to be human? If you haven't noticed, it's more digital and distracted and disconnected than ever. What does it mean to truly connect with other people and to create something meaningful? It's about learning how to stay sane and grounded while it does. If we don't know the answer to the questions of who am I as a human being, and then what do I want, the how is irrelevant. The more connected we get,
the more human we become.
It's about being present. Hey, you guys, welcome back to How to Stay Human. We're your hosts, Tori and Kyle, and today is our second episode of this show. And we're going to be diving into really the ethos of why we're doing this. And that is, what does it actually mean to stay human, to be human? And I say that not in like a fluffy or abstract way, but in a real and practical way.
Life throws a lot at us. Struggles with relationships, business stress, family issues, and past traumas that keep resurfacing. I've been there, trust me. And I thought I could handle it all on my own. But then I found a solution that changed everything. And that was working with a virtual online psychiatric provider. Through expert support, I learned to process old wounds, reset limiting patterns, and break through mental blocks that were holding me back. I even explored ketamine therapy, and the transformation has been so profound, I had to share it with you guys because it's changed my life, both in my relationships and just how I show up in business. That's why I'm so passionate about Anywhere Clinic. They offer holistic, accessible mental health care from therapy and medication management to cutting-edge treatments like psychedelic-assisted therapies. You don't have to wait for a crisis to seek support because thriving is possible right now. So go to anywhereclinic.com and book a session for as low as $120, or you can check to see if your insurance covers it. So take that step towards the support you deserve today.
Because if we're being honest, the world is getting weirder and weirder by the day. If you haven't noticed, it's more digital and distracted and disconnected than ever. And a lot of us are feeling the effects of that, whether that's through burnout or we're just tuned out or we're numbing out and we're being asked to perform more. And as a byproduct, I see that we're connecting less. And so in this episode, we want to slow it down and get back to the core and the basics of what is our humanity, really? And what does it mean to be present in our lives and in our bodies and to feel our feelings? What does it mean to truly connect with other people and to create something meaningful, especially in a world that is ever increasingly becoming more and more artificial? And so we're going to talk about the things that keep us grounded when the world feels like it's spinning out. So that looks like your nervous system regulation and embodiment and creativity and truth and connection and purpose. Because these are the pillars of how to stay human. Honestly, the pillars and the values of our lives. Mm-hmm. And it's not about rejecting technology or pretending that the world is not changing. It's about learning how to stay sane and grounded while it does. Because things are changing and we have to get on board. And it's our job to stay anchored to our humanity throughout the things that are changing. So if you've ever asked yourself, why do I feel so off? Or how do I get back to myself? This conversation is really for you. And so I want to kick things off by first just saying hi to my love and my partner and my co-host. It's so nice to be sitting next to you again and to open up a conversation about one of the most important topics that I think can be talked about right now and I know is top of mind for us in our home. And that's like, what does it mean to be and stay connected to our humanity right now?
And, the funny thing, thank you, first and foremost. The funny thing when I think about our home and I think about, the practices that we put into place so that we can stay connected to our humanity, I always reference back to our puppy, Leo. Because to me, Leo, while he's a dog, is the most human that I know, truly. Why do I say this? Because Leo spends most of his day nurturing himself. He sleeps, he plays, he gets in the sun, he puts his face in the dirt. He's not worried about what might come tomorrow or what stayed or what it may exist the day before. Like, he's truly just present in each and every moment. And there's a certain level of sovereignty that we get to witness in our puppy's life that I feel like we miss sometimes as being humans. And while we live in one of the most connected times ever in human history, ever in the global history, I think we all can agree, and I think the narrative has been, particularly since the social media movement of the early 2010s, that we're feeling more apart. Mm-hmm. That we're feeling not just apart from others, but we're actually starting to really feel apart from ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I had mentioned something on the first episode that I found really, really powerful, which was this study that was done by the New York Times. It's called brainonllm.com, and it basically talks about the effects of ChatGPT on the brain, right? And it took 50 participants and basically said, let's take a look at, their brain activity and their brain patterns after repetitive use of ChatGPT over a multi-month period. And you know what the biggest thing they discovered was? They noticed a deeper disconnect from themselves, less ownership over their work, less connection with their writing, and so forth. It's probably no surprise to us, but it just goes to show that even in this technologically advanced era, even in a time where we have the opportunity to learn more about ourselves and to be more connected to others, we're feeling further apart. So the code here, I think we're going to share a lot today, is what can we learn from our puppy Leo and what does he have in store for us?
Yeah, it makes me think about, like you said, we're so connected and knowledge is everywhere. And like we could use ChatGPT, which I have a lot, to like get to know myself better and ask myself better questions and do self-inquiry and self-reflection. And that's all well and good, but it doesn't really move the needle unless we apply it.
Right.
Unless we actually do something with that information. Right. And as a coach that's been in the transformational space for the last 6 years, I've worked with hundreds of different people who come to work with me for different reasons. And a lot of them speak to one core pain point, which is I feel disconnected from myself or my purpose, or I'm going through a transition in my life and I need clarity. Or, the thing that I'm saying more than anything right now is, asking this question, like, who am I and what do I want? And then how do I get what I want? We have the technology now that can help us get what we want. Mm-hmm. But if we don't know the answer to the questions of who am I as a human being, and then what do I want, the how is irrelevant because we don't know where to point our dart at, what we're aiming for. Mm-hmm. And when I think about like staying human and what that means to me, and I want to hear from you what it means to you, but like one of the first things that comes to mind is staying real. Like the thing that's beautiful about humanity that is, I think, what a lot of us are like hungry for and aching for is something that feels authentic to us, that something that feels true. And I think we have been so pressured as a society and a culture to be productive and to like do the right things that we've lost sight of like what is the real thing, right? What is real for us, not is what is just what we're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And that's looked for so many of us, including myself, like following the rules and following the expectations of parents or society or culture and just like falling in line. And until we start to ask this question of like, why do I feel off? Or you get all of the success that you've been quote unquote working for. And then you're like, well, why am I not fulfilled? Or why am I not satisfied? Or why is there still a longing in my heart for something more? And I think that something more that we are aching for is the essence of our humanity, because that is, for me, our soul speaking to us. And we've got the biological pieces of ourselves that make us human, right? The fact that we can feel and that we're sentient beings and that we have, the ability to make meaning out of things. And we've got the biological component of feeling and emotion and senses and energy and all of that. And then we've got the spiritual component of like, what is behind the breath that animates this body? Like when my sister passed away in 2011, we were with her when we took her off life support. And so I watched her transition from this life into the next. And that experience changed my life because it was one of the, what I would consider holiest moments I'd ever been in, because it was literally watching a soul transition from the seen to the unseen. And I saw her body, and I saw her biology that was laying there, you know, her physical being, her vessel, her whatever you want to call it, this borrowed meat suit that we each get that's on loan.
Yep.
And
on loan.
Then it's like it's a rental. We all have these bodies that are rented for the span of our life. And then we don't need it anymore. And I watched that happen. And for me, it made me ask this question: if I'm not my body, what am I? Because it was clear that her body was laying there and she wasn't there anymore when she made that beautiful, holy transition. And I imagine that's the same way I'm going to feel when I birth children into the world. It's a holy moment of something coming from the unseen into the seen, the miracle of life, that we exist out of 8 billion people in the world right now, that we are alive. And so the conversation I want to have is like, what does that mean to be alive? Like, what is our aliveness? What is the essence of who we are that allows us to express ourselves through these bodies and through these voices and through our touch and our senses? And that, I think, as much as it's a human conversation, it's a spiritual conversation as well. And I think at the root of it, we're all hungry and looking for something, especially right now in these times, that feels true and real, not fabricated and filtered and thrown through chat GPT and like is spit out in this perfect way. It's like, there's something beautiful about the human that is imperfect. Like, that's what makes us amazing and beautiful, is that we're not perfectly curated, that we have rough edges, that we aren't like, that I've got acne, or I'm dealing with, you know, things that make me imperfect and make me human. And like, there's beauty in that.
Yeah.
You know, versus I think the world that we're stepping into and what we see on social media every day is like, look a certain way.
Right.
And that's what it means, you know?
Yeah. You know what I've always loved is like, I'll never forget, like every new thing that I would get when I was a kid, I would viciously protect it from ever getting like a scratch or a mark or anything like that on it, right? I never forget my dad.
I can totally see that.
Can you see that? Yeah. Well, and blessings to my dad, he also carries this OCD a little bit more than I do. And so my dad was always hyper particular about everything, right? No scratches, no marks, no breaks, no dents, nothing. Like everything was in pristine condition. And what I noticed with myself as I started to go down that path of like wanting everything to be a certain way is like, I started to feel like no ownership over the things, right? Because I was like, this looks just the same as when it came out of a factory and could have been in anybody else's hands, right? And so then I'll never forget when I started to like break out of that cycle that I had been in for the bulk of my life. There was a previous car that I had gotten, and it was a beautiful car. Loved it. This awesome electric car, super pretty. Worked the bulk of my younger life to get it, and within like a week of having it, it got a big scratch on it. And I remember looking at that scratch, and I said to myself, you know, all the parts of my younger self were saying, oh my gosh, how could you do this? You ruined the thing that you worked so hard for. And then I started to shift my perspective in it, and like, but finally, I have something that's mine, right? That dent, that scratch, that scrape made it for me, right? No one else in the world had that scratch or scrape. And there was something about that connectedness with the ownership, the connectedness with the imperfection that made me all of a sudden feel like it belongs to me. And so when I think about like the process of being human, a lot of it is like coming to a sense of acceptance that like, it's okay to be imperfect, and let's actually lean in and love our imperfections, because they are the things that are going to separate us as we continue to step into this kind of blended space where we are in this space of everything seems real, but it's not, right? And the one way that we'll be able to identify the things that are ours are by the things that don't look quite right, but they're a little bit out of place. And let's remember, for like, in a lot of ways too, like, you know, this journey that we're stepping into as a culture of things feeling less real is not one that just like started with the advent of technology. This has been how our society has been designed for centuries. And I want to also note that what I'm about to say is not an inherently bad thing, right? Like I always try to put myself in the positions of like a government or a leader. If I was overseeing 300 million people in the US, what would be the decisions I would make to ensure that our country would not collapse and it would actually be able to provide opportunities and prosperity to others? What I would first do is make sure that like the basic functions of society actually work. Right? Because if I can't ensure that we've got water and food and plumbing and roofs and air conditioning and all these essential components, my society will eventually collapse over time. Now, how do I get to that point? Well, the way that I get to that point is I have to have cogs in this greater machine. And that's what's kind of created the world that we're living in, especially in modern countries like the one we're in here in the US. And we're so blessed to be here. And yet I think because of this age of information, we're noticing it even more that we've been kind of entrapped by a system that in some ways has been helpful and served us, in some way it hasn't, right? They've said, go through the educational system, follow the job path, get the white picket fence, have the golden retriever, like follow this American dream. But in a lot of ways, that American dream has been subservient to a greater function of a greater overall machine that's been designed to protect and serve in some ways, and in some ways to enslave and entrap. And so I want to note that like the world that we're living in right now, we're feeling this sense of disconnection is it's not because it just started, it's because we just began the process of awakening and recognizing.
Well, when you say that, what comes to mind is like, it's not that we're necessarily in danger of like machines taking over. We are the machine right now. Right. You know what I mean? What if actually the influence of this advanced technology allows us to step out of the roles that we've been in, where we've had to be part of the cog and the wheel and part of the machine to make all of this function. If robots and AI are now going to do that, what does that now free us up to do? And for me, what comes to mind is that it actually allows us to reconnect to our humanity, to our true function, which is beingness less than doingness. It's not about perfection. It's about remembering our roots, remembering our ancestors, remembering what we did before we had to, right, perform at this level in order to survive. Now we're going to have technology that enables us to do that. And we're going to get into that in further conversations. But for me, it's about a return to our humanity and to stay with that, to stay connected to that. And when you were talking about, ownership of your things and your like OCD tendencies and that kind of thing, like what it makes me think of is like one of the things I loved as a little girl is we would drive around the rich neighborhoods and we would like imagine these mansions and be like, oh, I would like see myself in them one day, And it's almost like getting this house and having it perfectly designed and with all the best furniture, and you have someone come in and it's perfectly curated and it could be put in a magazine, like Southern Living or like whatever. That was like our magazine back in the day, it was Southern Living. You look through these amazing houses, but it's that, and it's sterile if it's not lived in, where you're like, I can't actually live in it, where I'm afraid to get anything dirty, or I don't want to mess up the dishes because they're perfectly, they've been perfectly put away. And I personally, like, it can look beautiful, but is it lived in? Do I get to exist and play and create? And because that's messy.
Right. Is it a house or is it a home?
That's the difference. And I want to ask, like, also for ourselves, like, is your body a house or a home?
Yeah.
Is your life a house or a home? Because to me, the aliveness that is within the home, the creativity, the expression, the mess,
the safety,
the dogs,
the comfort.
All of that is what makes it a home. And so the staying connected to your humanity is staying connected to your aliveness. And that might mean the things that are messy, like the creative process isn't perfectly linear. Neither is the healing process, right? And so I want us to, like, a big part of this show and this brand and this message is staying connected to the parts of us that are messy.
Yep.
Right. And that it includes our grief and our anger and our outrage and our, the emotions that we feel that aren't so polite and put together. Also, I think part of staying connected to ourselves is making room for all of these parts of us to exist not just the ones that we have deemed appropriate or like something that we approve of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So I think of this as like our hero's arc as a species, right? So for so long, our core focus as a species was survival, right? And even in like the post-industrial age that we've been in all the way up until the technological revolution that we're in now, like a lot of it has still been centered around survival. Like I was mentioning earlier, like it's been about our function in the system and making sure the system can survive. Because without like the mother or the queen bee, everything else collapses, right? So it's like, how can we be, again, subservient to this greater system, right? And within that system, you might have some like latitude for freedom, but for the most part, you're still tied within the box that the system has put you in, right? Now, what we've been entering into over the course of the last 20, 30 years or so is this information age that's put us in a position now where we're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm in the system. I'm aware that I'm in the system, but I'm still in the system, right? So it went from function, right, to awareness, right? And now the place we're stepping into is the functional element that we've been sort of placed into over the last 100+ years, post-industrial revolution, is all of a sudden being taken away from us, right? So it's like, great, now steps in AI and automation and robots and flying cars and all these different elements that are going to take away a lot of what we've perceived our function to be. And so then it gets into this new era that Tori is describing, which is the era of feeling. It's the era of the messiness and the imperfection and really the definition ultimately of what it means to be human. And so it kind of starts to walk into what you were mentioning in earlier, like there are two elements of this journey of understanding what it means to be human to me, right? It's the seen and the unseen, like you described it as, right? It's the things that I can feel with my five senses. And then it's the things that I can feel with sort of my metaphysical senses, the things that exist beyond, right? It's the sensations of love and passion and compassion and anger and sadness and fear. And then there's also the feelings of sunlight and putting my feet in the dirt and swimming in the ocean. And it's like, to me, the process of feeling is this collective process of feeling the unseen and the seen. And so I think the journey to coming back to really coming back to humanity is, what are the practices that we start to put into place so that we can feel again? Because what we do know with certainty is that the one definitive thing, if our function is taken away from us, that will still give us that sort of unique fingerprint as a species, is what we can feel.
Yeah. It's our sentience. It's our senses. It's our five senses and our higher senses that we've got our five senses that help us navigate the world. And then we've got these higher senses that allow us to take in information and perceive things that are unseen, right? And I think it's this blend between, like I said, our biology, not just our biology, but like the sacred, that unseen piece being sacred, like love, right? The fact that the fact that there's an end point, the one guarantee for all of us is that we're going to die. So there's something sacred about the fact that this is impermanent, that this is temporary. And that's why I think so many of us get caught up on like reaching our potential, because we know that there's going to be a day that there's an end point, a finale. And you're like, did I reach my full potential? I don't know. But like for me, it's about, and that's where we get caught up on productivity and performance and like reaching for this like future version of ourselves. But for me, staying connected to our humanity is staying connected to the here and now, to this moment. And I said that on our first episode. It's about presence. And that is one of like the biggest core pillars of what we talk about, and values and like virtues, is our ability to be present with what is, rather than living in reaction and distraction. And I think the primary thing, if we want to talk about the actionable things that help us stay grounded and that help us stay connected, is first is your ability to be here in this moment. And what I mean here is here in your heart, here in your body, here in this moment. And that's what we do. Like part of what I teach is like, how do I get out of my mind, which is so future? It's based in like my mind, my brain's built to survive. And it's thinking about the future And it's thinking about the past to prevent the bad things from the past from happening in the future. And this is why we have a society that's depressed and a society that's super anxious, because we're thinking about what if and blah, blah, blah. And we're not thinking about, we're not feeling into what is here. And so part of staying human is staying here, right? And the practice of that, the practice of presence, why are you smiling?
It's just so funny because, I mean, to me, like what you're describing is like, in many ways, I would say this is like the core element of our uniqueness. Like this is the core element of humanity that Tori's referring to. The reason I smile is because what Tori's describing is things that are in your body, right? What I can feel in my body, right? When I come back to my body, I'm not disembodied by screens or hyperproductivity or worrying about the future or the past. I'm just present here in my body. In my body, I am embodied, right?
I'm being, I'm feeling, I'm experiencing what is here now. And so
we describe it as in your body, embodied.
Embodiment is coming home to your home. This is your home. Your body is your home.
Yep.
Wherever you go, there you are. We've heard that a million times, right? Like you can move house to house, city to city. We've lived all over, but there you are. You take yourself with you because you can't escape this thing. Not unfortunately, I think the beautiful thing is there is no renting it out for a new one.
Yeah.
There's no, hey, let's trade. It's like, this is it.
You can upgrade. But can't trade.
Yeah. And we can optimize and we can, intentionally, what I say, how do I make my body a home I want to live in and be in versus one I want to escape?
Yeah. Love that.
Like, how do I make this place and my mind and my beingness a place that is the safest place I can be? That it's like that same feeling of being like connected to your lover or in your mother's womb or, cuddled with like something that soothed you as a child. Like it is that like that comfort blanket of like, I'm safe, I'm here, I'm home, I'm taken care of, I'm loved. And I believe it's our responsibility as human beings to reclaim that like responsibility to make our lives the homes we want to live in, because we can blame government, we can blame tech, we can blame our parents. Like, how long are we going to look outside ourselves and it's your fault that I don't like my life, and it's your fault that I don't feel good about myself, and it's your fault that I don't have good high self-esteem, and it's we can do that, but that's not going to get you very far, and it's going to just make you angry and pissed off and bitter and resentful and ultimately defeated because you have no power. And that's where we find if that's where we live, we're going to have a society and a culture that is completely in despair. And so what I want to invite us into is that doesn't have to be the story. Like our power lies in our awareness, like our consciousness. That's what makes us human beings. That like we have a level of consciousness, and there's still so much that we're learning about the nature of consciousness itself. But like our ability to be self-aware and to be aware of how we're feeling and how we're thinking and what's off and what's feels like it's true and what's making us feel like we're open or closed. All of that is the first step to changing anything in our lives. And so our power, how do we combat all of the stuff that's happening in the world? By coming home to your body and making conscious choices to make your life a place you want to be. Because you can't escape it.
Yep.
Or you can try, like you can. And there's also an epidemic of addiction in this country and sickness, you know what I mean? Because so many of us have tried to escape lives that have been hard to be inside of. And I don't want to like dismiss the fact that we have people have experienced significant trauma that make it hard to live inside their bodies. And that doesn't have to be your cross to bear in the sense that that's going to be the rest of your life, where my only choice is just to get out of here and disassociate or live in the clouds or numb myself in order to just survive, because there's that perspective of like, I didn't choose to be here and I've just got to like wait it out until it's over. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or you can have the perspective, which we choose to have, which this is a gift. And it is a miracle that I'm here and that I exist. And my existence is proof that I belong here. I don't have to qualify to belong. I don't have to perform to belong. I belong because I exist and I'm part of the human family. And I see that not just in myself, but in everyone else.
Yep. I mean, I think the biggest lie they've ever told us is that we are not special, is that we are not all unique, is that we are not all superheroes of our own life. Right. And so, when we step into a world where everything is going to start to look and feel the same, where we're going to be grouped into categories, where we're going to be seen as numbers, what's going to separate us each individually is coming back to our own individuality. And where does that lie? First and foremost, it lies in the reclamation of your body. It starts with coming back to your body. Because again, we're going from function to feeling, and feeling starts here. And so, question that I would have first and foremost is like, this is all great. It's like, come home to the body. I'm in my body. Now I'm this unique fingerprint, and now I'm seen as special, right? When I live here and I don't live in the throes of the greater system. Awesome. But how? What are those actual steps that I take to returning back home?
So another way I hear you saying that is like, how do we reconnect?
100%.
Like, how do I go from disconnected to connected?
Disembodiment to embodiment.
Right.
Yeah.
That process is moving from head to heart.
Yeah.
That process can happen as quickly as an inhale and an exhale. For me, my breath is my bridge. It is the thing that connects me to my humanity and to everything that is unseen.
Yep.
It is, in the Bible, it's called pneuma. It is spirit. It is the breath of life. It is, without breath, there is no life. It is the primary thing that links us between this world and the next.
Yep.
And there's only two separate breaths. It's the first one that we breathe and the last one that we breathe. Every other breath is a pair. It's an in and it's an out. And for me, when I breathe, the first thing, the smallest thing, the most immediate thing you can do is put your attention, your consciousness, your awareness on your breath and feel the sensation of air going in your lungs and going out of your lungs. And when I do that, I imagine I'm riding an elevator out of my head and into my body. Like, that is the most simplest, effective, immediate thing you can do right now to come into this moment.
Yeah.
Is just breathe with intention.
Yep.
And I remember 6 or 7 years ago now, I was living in Atlanta. I was disconnected from myself. I was in a corporate job where I was quote unquote thriving or like successful, but I was internally disconnected. And so, I've said this for years on my other show and like in the work that I do, where I've always wanted to, like, my mission has been to build a life that feels as good as it looks, because I had the external look good, but the internal wasn't in alignment with that. It felt like a fraud. It felt like a fake. It felt like I was doing this performance, but it didn't feel good. And I remember standing in a Whole Foods line with a girl, Paige. I haven't talked to her in years, but I'm still indebted to you, for she helped me become more aware of how disconnected I was from myself. And I was standing in this Whole Food lines with her, and I had my arms crossed, and she said, uncross your arms. You don't understand how your body posture is showing how open or closed you are to life and to miracles and to magic and to love and all of this. Like, your posture is also affecting your connection. You're cutting yourself off from the world when you sit like this or stand like this. So it's the first thing she said in Whole Foods: open your arms, let go, because she could feel it in me. And then she said, take a deep breath, really, from your belly. And I did it. And I realized in that moment, for the first time, I had a light switch come on. And I was like, I don't know when the last time I did that was. I don't know if I've ever done that intentionally at a time where I was like aware. And I was flooded with this just like sadness and like awareness of how far away I've been from myself. Mm-hmm. And like, I can feel that in my body right now for all the people who might not know it's 11:11 as I say this, like, have that connection and how quickly the breath can take you there.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the first place, and you can go really deep with that. But for me, breath work and like intentional breathing practices was my bridge home. It was the thing that like opened me up to my own power, because I went a year later after like having that conversation in Whole Foods. This was the light bulb moment for me of like, okay, Tori, there's some work to do around like getting to know yourself again and connecting with yourself again. Because you're like walking around, but you're not really living, and to connect with your aliveness. And I went on this trip to Maui. I went on this like solo trip to like experience and be with myself and get to know myself. And on that retreat, a couple of my teachers led me through this breathwork experience. And on the other side of that experience, 45 minutes later, an hour after breathing intentionally deep into my belly, I had tears streaming down my face. I was buzzing with electricity and energy and aliveness that was coming out of literally every pore. I was stunned by the level of catharsis and healing and release and relief that I felt of being like, oh my God, I'm underneath all of this. Like, I'm still here. I'm still connected. It was like this boulder had been lifted off my chest. And I was like, oh yeah, there's this part of me that was like gasping for breath and gasping for aliveness. And there I was underneath it all. And I was like, holy shit, I'm so powerful. How have I not known this my entire life? And that began this long journey that's like led me here to now teaching and speaking on these topics and facilitating this for other people, because I was like, everyone needs to know that you can feel this. And there's like, literally, if you're imagining like you're a computer or a device that is on empty right now, and you're like, I don't feel like myself. I'm not operating at my highest capacity. I'm not like feeling like I'm firing on all cylinders. Might be because you're depleted and disconnected, and you need to plug into a power source.
Yep.
And your breath is that source.
Yep. I love that. Really love that. I want to tune into a couple of things that you share that I think are really, really important. So like the overarching philosophy in the journey of coming back home, the starting place is the journey, is the sacred pause, right? It's like I'm pausing from my worries of what may have happened in the past. I'm pausing my worries of what may happen in the future. I'm pausing to come back to this moment here. Like that to me is the first step in actually coming home, is just stopping. Now, what does that look like? In your case, it's looked like this journey of breath, right? This journey of stillness and slowness through recognizing the power that inherently exists in this moment and in me. And it actually exists in all of us in every moment, right? It's that pair, that exchange that you referred to. So I invite in stillness and slowness as a step in this journey. I invite in the journey of coming back home through breath as being a really powerful modality to getting there. But I also recognize for a lot of us that sometimes the most effective thing is actually going back to where we all began, right? And so breath was the first opportunity that we ever had to feel aliveness, right? But I also like to explore what actually even gave us the aliveness in the first place. Like, what are the actual particles and atoms that created us, and who blessed us with those? And one thing that we know is that matter is not created nor destroyed. So the earth that we were born from is the earth that we come from, right? And so for me, this journey of really coming back to my body has been filled with many moments of breath. But, my biggest challenge in being in my body was forgetting what it's like to feel, right? And I spent time with breath, but it never quite tapped me into what I really desired, which was like, I kind of wanted the universe just to like pour itself on me. I wasn't finding the power within me. And so I spent some time. It's always amazing to hear that your story in many ways began in Hawaii, because mine did as well. And going back to our roots was like the most powerful thing that I ever did. And so my journey looked like moving to the big island of Hawaii. And first and foremost, like I was mentioning, it was just like cutting out all of the noise. It was that sacred pause that I referred to. So it was like starting to shut down my laptop permanently, starting to not look at my phone, starting to not get caught up in the daily distractions of life. Because like before we know it, like the rhythms and the distractions of our daily existence is enough to disembody ourselves there alone. Right. And so it was first like clearing out the, like stillness and slowness, clearing out the space, and then returning back to where I came from. And what that looked like for me was like a lot of time in the sun. That was like my push. It was a lot of time with my feet in the earth. It was a lot of time hugging and holding trees. There was a lot of time playing with animals. It was a lot of time swimming in the ocean. It was a lot of time just allowing myself just to like feel and move. And I almost had recognized like my life had been up to that point like so incredibly stagnant and so incredibly routine driven that I noticed that like there were even parts of my movement alone that felt like awkward and different. It was almost like I was relearning my body in some ways. And so the invitation for me in this journey of coming back home is just like, do the thing that you know you need to do, but you're not doing. And when I say need, these are coming back to like our basic needs of like ensuring that our body receives the elements required to survive. And so the path for me getting there was just going back to where I came from, right? Going back to like the things that felt the most natural to me. And for me, that was expressed again in the oceans and the trees and the sunlight and the dirt and kind of just doing what I did when I was a child. Like I've always said, like the easiest path the easiest path home for me is just looking at the things that I loved 20 years ago. They always open the door to me. And so I guess my question would be like, so let's say we've begun this journey of embodiment, right? We're feeling reconnected to our home. Now that we're in our home, like what starts this, and we're feeling more awakened, like where do we go from there? It's like, now I've tuned into my breath. I'm feeling the electricity moving through me. I'm starting to feel more connected, but like, I'm still not feeling the fire and the desire to go and be human or to create or to find my passion or whatever that thing might be. Like, where do we go next?
Well, before I go there, I want to just like comment on what you said about connecting with nature, connecting with the elements, connecting with slowness. Like, I get that not everybody has the luxury of doing what you did.
Yeah.
And like moving to an amazing island and like turning off your laptop like permanently and doing this like sabbatical, you know, but what you can practically do is take a digital Sabbath. You can once a week. Yeah, what you can practically do is create structures or boundaries around, you know, like I know for you have things built on your phone where it says like, you're locked out of YouTube at this minute or like or whatever. Like there's ways you can start to do this where we're not constantly inundated with those distractions, because what that does to us on a nervous system level is when we're constantly being flooded with information, we're in a state of reactivity. When we wake up every morning and the first thing we do is look at our phones, our texts, our emails, we're not responding to the day. We're reacting to the day. And so I think there's a huge emphasis on this slowness and the silence or the stillness, because that is where you learn to listen to yourself, hear yourself. How can you know what you want? How can you know what's true for you? How can you hear your intuition if everything is noise?
Yeah.
And so that is free. Breath is free. Silence is free. Stillness is free.
And to be clear, so is sunlight and dirt.
All of these things have been provided to us by life, by Mother Nature.
Yeah.
And part of it is getting back to, and I think because of the way technology is advancing and we're not going to be having to function at this high speed anymore, like we're going to have some spaciousness to be able to return to the natural rhythm that we come from.
Yeah.
But we can start to do that now. And also in that, like Viktor Frankl says in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, which I think is so relevant and will continue to be like, this was a man who survived and went through the Holocaust. And in the midst of tragedy, he's asking the question, how do we find meaning? We're going through a huge shift collectively right now. And there's a lot of collective tragedy happening. And we can be asking the same question, how do we find meaning? And what he says in that book is between stimulus and response, there's a pause. And you called it the sacred pause. In between an email and your response to it, there's a breath, an opportunity to pause and to say, how am I going to respond to this? And this comes down to, are we going to be conscious or unconscious in our reactivity? Yeah. Are we just going to be pattern repeaters and we're not even aware of what we're doing? We're just on autopilot, because that is where we have, again, we're disconnected. When we're on autopilot, we're disconnected from our humanness. Yeah. And the pause is where the change occurs. That's the pattern interrupt. That's where you get to reclaim your power of choice. Yep. And what am I going to do now? And that's going to be something we're going to explore. It's like, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with your life if you're not happy with where you are right now? It's your choice. Yeah. And there's a great responsibility that comes with that, but there's a great power. And I would assert like that is like the thing that gets to be reclaimed. And you were saying like, what do I do once I am, this is a process of returning home.
Yeah.
You know
Can I add in one piece to that too? Because I think I love this. You actually took the words like right out of my mouth and where I was hoping that this conversation would go. And I'm so glad that it did, because you're right. Not everyone has the ability to maybe make these more dramatic life shifts, but everyone has the ability to make the more minor shifts. And really to your point, like it all is the decisions that we make in that pause. Now, the biggest challenge along that journey, like it doesn't take moving to Hawaii to make these decisions. That's for sure. Although I will say it's a great shortcut, but it doesn't take that. What it does take more than anything is boundaries and continued commitment. And so where I was hoping this conversation would move into is this idea of like, now that we've come back to our body, right? We've used some of these tools that we've mentioned. We've breathed, we've stepped in the sun, we felt our feet on the earth. We've turned off our phone, we've shut down our laptop, we've done our digital Sabbath. It's like, cool. What we're doing in that journey is we're reclaiming our sovereignty. Right? We're coming back to being able to make proactive decisions based off of our own desire versus reactive decisions based off what we're being fed. And so in that journey of sovereignty, the most important question that I get to play with myself is like, how do I maintain it? Because everything around me is telling me you can have that a little bit. You can have that, to your point, when you're living in Hawaii for a few months. You can have that on the weekends. You can have it on these little tiny windows outside of your day, but the rest of the day needs to be dictated and guided by someone else. And my invitation is that it doesn't. My invitation is that we can reclaim our power, and we do it through ultimately, to me, it's ultimately comes down to like owning your own choices, owning your energy, practicing boundaries, practicing commitment and consistency. Those are like the 2 C's that drive everything in my life. And the most important thing is doing things consciously. And so I'd love to explore this further in terms of how you integrated this in your life.
I think it's like the small rituals.
Yeah. I love that.
Ritual. How can we come back to creating these sacred moments that have a ritual around it, right? Like that bring intention and presence. That's what a ritual is. You're bringing intention and you're bringing your presence to the moment. And you can do that even when you're doing the dishes, even when you're doing your morning routine. This man has a full-blown morning and night routine that he does 15 steps in each of it, but it's a ritualized practice. You are one of the most like ritualized people I know in terms of the way you open yourself to the day and close yourself to the day and to all of these different things. Like there's a container around it.
Yeah.
And that's what the masculine does, is it creates a container. And so the power of small ritual is like, how do I bring my presence and my intentionality to this moment? And that can look like all the things we were just talking about.
And I really want to share too, just like a quick note on that. Like the open and close piece is so important because I see so many people that live lives where like everything kind of bleeds and blends into each other.
It's all one big long day.
It's all one big long exhaustive day where the concerns that I carry here carry over here. And like, while I'm not saying that you should ever repress what you're experiencing in your life, I also think there's opportunities for us truly to compartmentalize our experiences, right? And to be able to open one drawer and be truly invested and present in that experience while we're there. And then to be able to gently close that and say, I'll come back to you when I'm ready, but it's time to be fully present and aware of something else. Because I think in a lot of ways, what our existence in society has put us in a position to do is never to be fully here now.
Because we're so flooded. We're flooded with the next idea or the next thought or the next task or the next thing. And it just like bleeds. So we just go from one thing to the next. Entrepreneurs who aren't boundaried and like ritualized and structured I'll go from creating content to filming content to delivering content to, doing admin work it all bleeds into one long day. Versus like a way you can structure this is like, you do a deep work session or an intentional work session on something for an hour. And then doesn't mean your brain's not going to think of other ideas or think of things you need to do, but you jot it down and you come back and you say, I'm going to create a time and a space. We do this in our relationship to come back to these things. We've created rituals in our relationship. Wednesday nights, we have date night. we talk about life logistics. We talk about the coming day. We talk or our schedules, and we have a time set aside for certain things.
Yeah.
Right. We have time set aside for intentional drop-in presence and connection to, get feedback from one another and to just be in our hearts, because there are times where we have to be in our heads and we have to do things.
Yep.
And we have to be responsible for our lives and moving the ball forward. That is not, we're not saying let's drop responsibility and just hang out on the beach forever. We're still moving the ball forward, and we're intentionally being responsible for our time and our schedules to create time that allows for us to be here.
Yeah. And remember that the most important gift that we can give someone else is our true undivided attention and presence.
1,000%.
It is the greatest gift. And so really what we're proposing here is how can we put systems and structures in place in our life so that we can be fully present with ourselves and fully present with others? And what I would propose here, just as a starting place, I think we've bounced around a couple ones that are really, really important in terms of not bringing everything to every moment, right? Opening and closing the doors of your life individually, writing things down, not always bringing them up. They'll spark unnecessary conversation and pull you away from what you're really there for. I see this happen all the time. But the thing that I would invite in, just as a starting place, and we'll certainly explore this more, is coming back to this micro ritual idea. I invite having a practice that open and closes every segment of your day. And so what does that look like for me? I'll just share a brief anecdote from my own experience, because Tori knows that I'm as she was mentioning, overly, not overly ritualistic, but borderline overly ritualistic, sometimes to the point that it's to a fault, but that's another conversation. First and foremost is every morning when I wake up, I do no phone for the first hour. First light in my eyes is the sun. First thing that I put in my body is something desired to nourish me, and I always aim to spend the first hour of my day moving. Super simple. Those are not overly complex. Need to study Andrew Huberman to understand it. It's just
essentials.
It's literally just light, nourishment, movement, and stay away from your digital device. You'll get plenty of time with it later in the day. Now, why do we stay away from our digital device? The core reason that I would describe why is because the first light that you want in your eyes is the sun. But just moving away from the scientific purpose, the reason why is because we want to be present with ourselves. And there's so much that wants to come through when you allow your channel to be fully opened. What oftentimes closes and constrains our channel is the information that we're constantly being fed. So I'm really, really big on information hygiene and the way that I receive information. Now the next part of my day, so I've now opened up my day, and now when I've stepped into, let's say, the time where it is time to receive information, I'm highly targeted and intentional with the information that I receive. And so a great simple hack here, Tori briefly mentioned this earlier, but on my phone, I use, for those of you that have iPhones, and I'm sure many people have the same feature on their Androids as well, is there's a feature called screen time, and you can literally lock down all of your notifications for portions of the day. It is a game changer. What was the most distracting thing in my life leading up until that point? I would have my phone on vibrate, and anytime anything happened, regardless of what compartment, again, of my life, I would be notified about it. So all of a sudden, that really deep present moment that I have with my partner, I'm looking at my phone, I'm concerned about an email that came through from my mom about something that's happening that's irrelevant to me in 2 weeks, but now that portion of my presence is no longer dedicated to her.
It's now I think of it as a tab.
Yeah.
It's a tab that is running energy on your internal.
That's right. And you only have so much to give. You only have so much to give. So if we think of ourselves, Tori mentioned it as a battery earlier, if we only have 100% of our bandwidth that we can give to anything at any given moment, the question becomes how much are you willing to dedicate to this present space? And I think that there's tools and techniques that you can put into place to really help to support that. And I think that just something as simple as information hygiene is really, really important.
To piggyback off that not only allows you to be present, but for all the leaders, entrepreneurs, and movers and shakers, this is going to help your focus and your productivity.
Oh yeah, it's the greatest hack in the world.
So it's actually going to support you in so many ways. And that closing out of those tabs, the mental tabs that are just running in the background of your life 24/7, that to me is how do you know you're disconnected from yourself? It's there's this dull ache.
Yeah.
It's a dullness that is constantly there. Nothing feels very vibrant. Nothing feels very alive. You're just there's a cloud over you all of the time. And as you start to, and I think a meditation practice is wonderful for this, a silence and stillness is like, how do I exit out of these tabs and get that energy coming back to me? When I'm trying to like edit on my laptop or I've got 50 windows pulled up, everything is slower.
Yeah.
Everything is slower.
I love that. Yep.
You know, and the other thing that you mentioned about your morning and your night is, well, morning specifically is movement. And if we're talking about the body, like it's so critical. One way you can come back to yourself is move your body.
Yeah.
Like the way that that's going to affect you on a neurological and chemical level, you're going to be flooded with good hormones and like you're going to feel better. But it's also a way that, like, one of the things I've been playing with is embodied movement or somatic dance. Somatic just means body focused. And a lot, we've probably heard of somatic healing or somatic therapy, somatic experiencing. When we talk about healing, a lot of times in traditional talk therapy or CBT, we're focused on the mind. And that only can get us so far, because if you've ever heard of the book, The Body Keeps Score, we understand that the body holds onto unprocessed, unfelt emotions and trauma. And one way we can start to move and energetically digest or emotionally digest that stuff is through movement.
Yep.
And through connecting to the breath, to the sensation, to the feeling, and working that out. And so for me, one of the things I practically love to do and have started doing so much more is non-performative movement. I'm not moving to be good at something. I'm not moving my body to hit a personal high or personal best. I'm not moving to compete with you and how much more I can do with you or how good I look doing it. It is a private practice, because the change and the healing that we all need as a collective and as a species is going to happen in the privacy of your own heart and your own mind and your own body.
Yeah.
And if you can't put on a song and move your body to it in a way that's not about looking good and it's not about showing off for anybody or doing a performance, it's about just letting life move through you in whatever way that it desires to, then we're blocked.
Yeah.
We're blocked from our own aliveness. And that is one of the most immediate ways you can tell is like, can I move my body in a dance or somatic or like unfiltered way? And if not, what are all the stories that come up? Or why am I so tight and so closed? Because the more we open, the more we get embodied, the more we release and let go and heal, the more connected we get.
The more human we become.
The more human we become, the more open we become, and the more clear and therefore, I think, authentic.
Yeah.
And therefore magnetic.
Yeah.
To the people and the opportunities that want to be drawn to you, so that you can express yourself, because self-expression becomes the next step of this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yes, there's awareness of the disconnection. Yes, there's a bridge you start to walk down that moves you from your head into the present moment and into your heart and into your body. And then once you're connected to yourself, what is your to do? What is your assignment? It's to be and express yourself in the world, because that is your gift to humanity. That is your contribution. And that's a conversation we're going to get down into, like the nitty gritty around purpose in the future and in like these next coming episodes, because like I said, this is an arc, this is a journey.
Yeah.
And the like purpose of our existence again is getting redefined right now.
Yeah.
About going from functionality to liberated self-expression.
Yes. So I want to take our sacred pause for a moment here and just come back to, so embodiment, key pillar of humanity. Spent quite a bit of time on that. Breath, movement, sun, dirt, non-performative movement is an expansion of that. Really important. Start to dovetail into creativity and expression, which I would say is a core pillar of what it means to be human. I want to also reflect back on this idea of responsibility that we played with today. Responsibility really over our choices and our energy, right? It's reclaiming our own power. And again, how do we do that? We do that through boundaries. We do that through commitments. We do that through micro rituals. We do that through the opening and closing of our day, our digital detoxes, and our moments of saying, this moment is for me and I am here now. Sovereignty, reclamation of our own power. What comes as a natural result of reclaiming ourselves, all of a sudden we create spaciousness. We create time, we create freedom, right? And when we have spaciousness, time, and freedom, we have the ability to create. We have the ability to make. We have the ability to move or create art or stories or food or love. Like, we shape culture. Ultimately, we become human. We elevate our species from what comes through us in that freedom to express, right? So this idea here that Tori's touching on in terms of the non-performative movement, consider this a part of your daily creative practice, whatever that might look like for you. But I think the most important piece that she's touching on is that it's non-performative. Creativity knows no limits and knows no bounds, right? So like, my encouragement is to bring it forward however you desire. If that's allowing music to move through your body, beautiful. If that's singing that song that everyone told you just didn't sound quite right, I encourage you to belt it to the moon. If that's doodling, when there's an idea that comes in your head, you're like, I just need to get that down on paper. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care if you grab a pen and put it on the back of an envelope. Like, put it out there. And if it's an idea, don't let it just stay an idea. Bring it into
give it arms and legs.
Give it arms and legs. Put it into a voice note. Play around with AI. Toss and turn with it. Move with it. Shape it. Like, allow it to come through. Allow it to be expressed. That element of creativity is so incredibly important in this journey back home and in this journey to purpose.
Totally. It's definitely a core pillar of this brand and our aliveness and what it means to be creative beings. And I want to get so much, like, we're going to really dive into what that can look like. And I love what you said about creating a practice. I think that's something that, like, as we sort of wrap up at least this conversation today, one thing you can immediately do as a way to connect with yourself, create time and space every day. And that can start with 15 minutes. It can grow to 30 minutes to an hour. Like, I have a space in my home that I've created that I go to where I spend time with me. You can call it a spiritual practice. You can call it a connection practice. You can call it presence practice. It's like the practice of being present with whatever is here now. And that can look like a meditation, silence, stillness, journaling, expression, dance, breath, all of it. Start somewhere.
Yeah.
Start anywhere. There's no wrong way to do it. This is not about getting a grade.
It's non-performative.
It's not about being perfect.
Yep.
It's about being present. And if you can simply tune in with the question of what is here for me right now, what is true for me right now, and that might look like, I don't know, I'm frustrated. We can work with that.
Yeah.
That's something. Work with that. Write that out. Move that through your body. Like, that's information. And I think sometimes that's the full spectrum of being human. It includes all the spectrum of our emotions that exist and feeling those fully. And I think that's a great place to start, is having some kind of personal practice where you simply connect to your internal world.
Yep.
And if you can, and ultimately what that is starting to build a relationship with the only person that you will ever be connected to forever, which is you.
Yep.
And that is the journey of starting to make this house.
I love that. And I want to add in one piece that I think is, as we're thinking about like where this journey ultimately takes us, right? And where do we go now that we are beginning to create a home for us to live in? One thing I want to start thinking about, and we'll spend a lot of time exploring this together, is once that house becomes a home, right? Who are you going to allow to walk in it? What people are you going to allow into your space? And recognize that human connection ultimately is what makes us whole. And where does community and accountability fit into this journey of actualizing your purpose? And I think the starting place for that is, again, it's presence. It's presence with ourselves. It's the sacred pause in the moment. And it's also starting to introduce those practices into our relationships with others.
Totally.
It's, for me, deep listening. It's almost listening as an act of respect. I'm not here just to hear you. I'm here to feel you, right? I'm not here just to hear you. I'm here because I want to feel and experience you, right? Listening as an act of respect and reverence. For me, as the hopeless romantic that I am, which turns out I'm a very hopeful romantic now that I have this amazing woman in my life, it's also the lingering eye contact. Like, just play with it. And I know for those of you that have explored spaces of relational intimacy and connection, the game of eye contact is one that every single healer will try to bring forward. But my invitation is to not do it in a space that feels overly safe, but to try it in a space that feels new or explorative to you. Try eye contact with someone that you've just gotten the opportunity to meet and see how it impacts their inner world. Like, these small actions start to open the door into the home that you're building, because safety isn't just created in here, it's also created here. And for the brothers and the kings and the men that are tuning in to this episode with us today, remember that in a lot of ways, that is our responsibility. We're not just creating a home inside of us. We're creating a home outside of us as well. We're creating a home for everyone else to feel safety and security walking into. And we do that again for them by our presence, right? We do that again through our eye contact, through our listening as a sign of respect. We do that through our hug that lasts maybe just a second longer in a way that no one has ever felt it before. So let's just remember that we are each other's mirrors and we reflect back the best that we see in someone else. So we do that by taking that one extra step in deepening that connection in that relationship.
Yeah. Intimacy starts, with presence. And starts with yourself, and you can't be in connection with another if you're disconnected from the moment and from yourself. And I think I love what you said about eye contact. It's like through the eyes, it's like the gateway to the soul. Like, look up, ladies and gentlemen. Look up from your device. Look up from your to-do list. Pay attention to who's in front of you. Look at the person who's serving you at the restaurant or at the grocery store. Like, look them in the eye, because that is, you're seeing the human that is across from you. You're seeing into like the gateway into their soul and their essence. And like, can we invite that forward in each other?
Yeah.
And that is where I think as a species, we need to return to. It's like the remembrance of who we are before we learned who we needed to be to survive in a world. And when our needs are taken care of, how do we return to that essence? And that is I think the process that we're going to go through together. And, in what's to come in these conversations and what we're talking about on our Substack. If you don't follow us there, you can subscribe for free. It's How to Stay Human. We also have a upgraded paid version where you're going to get behind the scenes exclusive content from Kyle and I. But even just as far as like what's coming on this show, we're going to get like our next episode, we're going to be looking to the future of like, what is the state of the world?
Yeah.
What can people expect from that? And then we're going to dive into these core pillars, right? Like humanity versus artificiality, like embodiment, presence, nervous system awareness, and regulation. Deeper intimacy work. Like, we're going to be talking about relational, energetic, mental, emotional hygiene, right? Like all of these practice, creativity, expression, faith and grounding and spirituality. Like, this is the content of what's to come. And we're going to get so deep in this. And then how do you express that in the world? How do you build something that's going to have a legacy that outlives us when we do transition, But what can people expect from what's coming next week?
I mean, just so incredibly powerful. Thank you for sharing this space with me as always, love. It's an honor. It truly is. And what I'll share is that, what I want more than anything for our time together to start to represent is tuning in to the energetic bodies that make up who we are. And you're going to hear me comment on these a lot, so I'll tease them for today and leave a little bit for us to discuss as we continue on our time together. So we spent some time on these today: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. You've heard them many times before. And we're going to also spend time in tuning into primal, social, and financial. And the real question that I want to explore is, why do these matter? Especially as me sitting across the floor from you here as the one who's always talking about the future and abundance and AI and how we can utilize these tools to actualize our dreams. And my encouragement is that the first step is actually a return to us. It's a return back to presence. It's a return back to home. It's a return back to humanity. And from there, we'll spring into the future and we'll utilize all of these tools of creation like never before. So what you can expect from us, and especially in terms of next week's episode, is actually starting to look at like, what is the world that we are going to be springing into? And is it a world of despair, like we feel like the narrative is often describing to us? Or is it a world of hope? Is AI something that's going to take away from us, or is it actually going to enable us? Is this the greatest tool of creation of all time? And are we going to be able to further activate the humanity in us that we're now coming back to and we've gotten to share about in this space today? So there's so much to come, and sneak peek, it's all going to be awesome and it's all going to be abundant.
Yeah. My final invitation for all of you is, whatever you do, whether it's listening to this show, whether it's reading a book, whether it's having a conversation with a fellow coworker or a parent or someone that you care about in your life today, be fully there.
Yeah.
You're going to get from life what you give your energy and your attention to. Be fully there. And when you're listening to the show, like, I invite you, take out a pen, take out paper, write down, like, engage with us. Like, this is a community that's being built. This is a movement of that reclamation and the return to our humanity and our aliveness and our true, authentic essence. And this isn't about Kyle and I. This is about the collective of human beings that want to link arms and remember what it means to be real. And you get to be a participant in that if you want to be. And you can participate that in your engagement with us on social media. You can participate in that and just seek your attention in these shows, or sharing it with a friend, or whatever degree you want to be an active participant. Or you can be somebody that sits on the sidelines and just watches. Like, it's up to you. You get to choose your own adventure with this. And that's the fun part, is like, you're going to get what you give in life.
Yeah.
And so today, as we close, like, give your attention to the things that are most worthy of your time and your energy.
Yes.
And we hope you'll return with us next week when we come back for episode 3. But thank you for being here. And in the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram, How to Stay Human Official, on Substack, or How to Stay Human. And you can leave us a rating and review and share this with a friend. That would be the best way to say thank you and to help get this message out to those that need it, especially at this critical time in human history. We love you. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week.